All right, good morning, everyone. My name is John Donadio. I'm the Executive Director of the New Jersey Association of Counties. I want to welcome you to the association's first virtual workshop of the year. We are very pleased today to have with us our friends from Bergen County, who are going to talk about addressing food insecurity through county government. We're going to hear all about the Bergen County Office of Food Security. But before I make the introductions, I just want to take a minute to thank Commissioner Czar and Jared Louts for taking the time yesterday to give me a really a remarkable tour of the Bergen County Hearts facility, which I think is a unique and one of a kind transitional housing facility in the state of New Jersey. And Jared, I think maybe you're going to talk just a second or two about that in a minute. And also the emergency shelter. It was just remarkable to see the collaboration between county governments, community stakeholders, and just the commitment from you, Commissioner Czar, Jared, and all of the people involved. It was really just a terrific experience. And they love visitors, so I would encourage anyone on this call and from your county to go up and visit the Hearts program in particular. It was a fantastic program, and they're doing really great things up there. So thank you for that. I really appreciate it a great deal. So before I introduce our panelists, a couple of housekeeping things, and I always get this wrong, but if you have a question or answer, please make sure to put that in the Q&A and not the chat box. The chat box is in case all the panelists have to speak with each other. If you have a question, again, put it in the Q&A and we'll try to answer it throughout the presentation. If not, we'll get to it at the end. And I, of course, want to thank Angela Wolf, who is celebrating a year in her brand new studio in Philadelphia, even though she took a little bit of a break to celebrate the Eagles winning. Although us folks up in Central North Jersey were not so thrilled about that. We'll let you enjoy it for a little bit. So, Angela, thank you for always with your IT help. I appreciate that a great deal as well. So the name of the Bergen County program is the Bergen County Office of Food Security. Somebody asked that, and we're going to get into that in a minute. So first up, we have Commissioner Tracy Czar, who was also the Maurice Fitzgibbon County Commissioner of the Year in 2024 for all the great work that she does for Bergen County and tremendous support that she's provided to the association and me over the years. So Commissioner Czar, thank you for being here. And again, for yesterday. We have Patrick Fallon, who is the project manager for the Bergen County Office of Food Security. Thank you for being here. And of course, Jared Louts, who is the Deputy Chief of Staff to the County Executive. So to my friends from Bergen County, thank you again for being here today. I appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing your presentation as well. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, John. So good morning, everybody. As John mentioned, I'm Jared Louts, Deputy Chief of Staff to County Executive Desko, and until very recently, actually also serving as the Acting Director of Human Services, where the Office of Food Security falls under. We're very pleased to join you today and for us to present something that we're very excited and passionate about, which is our work with the Bergen County Office of Food Security. Tracy and Patrick will get more into the history here, but this was an idea of Commissioner Czar's that was really born out of the pandemic. And what we've been able to build and onto the point that we're at today, we're very excited to share with you what we've been working on. So I think I'd like to start with just kind of a brief thought experiment. And let's just say your county executive, your county commissioner chair, your county administrator comes to you and says, I want to address food security in our county. And you think about what it would take for the county to do it, especially if you're doing it alone. For us here in Bergen, we have almost 1 million people, 70 municipalities, 230 square miles of area to cover. Just to stand that up, you would need warehouses, you'd need to procure the food, drivers, vehicles, staff, software. The costs, economic, political costs, would be too much for the county alone to bear. And that's just to feed people. And even so, from a county level, a problem like food insecurity seems too large and too daunting. So that's the bad news. The good news is that there's already folks on the ground doing this work. Soup kitchens, food pantries, social service, faith-based organizations, volunteer groups, they're already in the communities doing that work. And so now the question changes from how does the county fix food insecurity to how does the county strengthen and build these partners to collectively fight food insecurity? So when we change the question to be less about ownership and more about partnership, these daunting tasks seems a lot more manageable. And that's true for food security, homelessness, mental health, substance use disorders, childcare, housing, how do we form these strategic partnerships and support other organizations, big and small, to make sure that we're all working together? Essentially, how do we take all of these different threads and weave them together into the net that catches people who might fall into it? We're very big on partnerships like that here in Bergen. As John mentioned, we hosted him yesterday to tour both our single and our family homeless shelters. Both are multi-decade partnerships between the county, Board of Social Services, the Housing Authority, nonprofits. For us, the role of county government is to bring these agencies together, build consensus and relationships, and invest in technologies and systems that will strengthen these partnerships. The other piece to this, to the issues that I presented, is food security, homelessness, mental health. For those of you who work in this space, no one ever presents with just one of these issues. So feeding people only gets us part of the way. It doesn't always address why people might be facing hunger in the first place. So how can the county expand on partnerships that make sure people get connected to everything, all the services that they need? So a lot of what you'll be hearing about today is that there should be no wrong door. That if you're coming to us for food security, we're referring you seamlessly to whatever other service you might need. And what tools can the county provide to make that seamless for our partners? So again, the county's role is in our vision is to really bring these people together, help them work together to strengthen these threads so the net is even stronger. So I don't want to steal too much thunder from the presentation. I've already talked a bit too long. Thank you all for being here. We're very excited for you to hear what Bergen has been working on. And thank you very much to Commissioner Zur and Patrick Fallon and all the staff at our Office of Food Security. Please take it away. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Jared, that was amazingly well said and really so eloquently summarizes the overarching county vision of how we make sure no one falls through the cracks, of how we holistically wrap around services to individuals so that we can make sure that all needs are being met. And just to for us, food security wasn't necessarily, I think, for any of us on the radar screen to the extent that it is now prior to the pandemic. And just to get a basic understanding, food security means that all people at all times have physical, social, and economic access to a sufficient, safe, and nutritious foods that meets their dietary needs and food preferences for an active and healthy lifestyle. That part's in italics there, but probably should be in the bold and the capital, because so much of what we have been focusing on is making sure we are getting healthy foods onto our pantry shelves, that we're getting people engaged in nutrition that meets their needs so that we don't create down the stream long-term health outcomes that are negative, and that we're actually lifting people up, giving them opportunity and giving them the base core level of nutrition so that they can thrive in our communities, in our economies, in our schools, and live full lives. So, as I said in the beginning, so much of this was invisible to us even, and we knew we had so many nonprofits who were working to feed people. We partnered with them in various ways, but it was really the pandemic that shined the brightest spotlight on what was going on in our county and in our community. And the pandemic emergency enabled and forced us to jump into a space in a very different way than we ever had before. The feedback from our community partners was there was lines out the door. Most of their volunteers had been senior citizens, so they were all being directed to stay home. Not only was there no tuna fish or toilet paper to be had at any price, but there was a severe shortage in so many different spaces, and they had no budget and no ability to deal with the tremendous need that was now befalling them. And so many of our pantries in Bergen counties were small. They were either faith-based or community-based organizations that, collected cans on the weekend at church, or Girl Scouts collected them in front of supermarkets and dispensed them during the week to those who were in need. And all of a sudden you had no church and no Girl Scouts and no steady food supply, but tremendous need, growing unemployment, and people who were relying on our food pantries more and more. And so that forced us to really look holistically at the situation. And we formed the Bergen County Food Security Task Force, bringing together nonprofit partners, government agencies, municipalities, all the stakeholders at the table to not just respond to the immediate emergency, but to really create a community around food insecurity, to work collaboratively. I hear our senators say this all the time, that if you want to go fast, you go alone. You want to go far, you go together. And we really saw in Bergen County the need for us to go together to work to make sure that all of the gaps were being met, not just on the supply chain and making sure that we had not just cans and boxes, but produce and dairy and meat. This was not a situation where there was a storm and we had to provide food for a week. This was months upon months of need from our neighbors. And part of that was also creating additional awareness about the need in our county. I think so many think of Bergen County as one of affluence and did not realize that we had, during the first year of the pandemic, a 71% increase in food insecurity, which meant that we had about 100,000 of our neighbors who did not know where their next meal was coming from. And so it brought together the stakeholders in a way where we really were able to brainstorm and collaborate on how to improve outcomes for our food insecure families and our food insecure individuals in our county. And we really brought together a wide swath of partners. It was churches, it was community centers, it was non-for-profits, health organizations, our hospitals were part of the conversation. So many of our divisions within human and health services and human services were at that table, but also our schools. We had no school, so there was no school meals that was going to so many, and how we brainstormed around that and solved for those challenges were definitely on the table as issues that we needed to address. And we responded because our neighbors needed us to. And if you can go to the next slide, as I mentioned before, in 2020, we saw a 71% increase in food insecurity, meaning that 10% of our residents, about 100,000 people, were food insecure. There was a study that was done in 2008 of the 2008 recession, where it indicated that it took 10 years for food insecurity levels to get back to pre-recession need, and that we saw a peak 2 years into that period of time. Well, here we are in 2024, and we saw a 26% increase just last year. We have not even seen the top of that parabola. We have not seen the peak in the need yet. And I think what's so interesting for us in this county, where we have this perception of affluence, is that there are individuals in every single municipality who are receiving SNAP benefits, from Alpine and Franklin Lakes, Real Housewives, to to Fairview and Garfield. The need is in every single one of those towns. And I was at a mayor's meeting, and I went around the table asking each mayor, how many people do you think are in SNAP in your community? And, the mayor of Alpine was like, I don't know, maybe 2, and he underestimated that by 5 times, and that is pretty significant to understand that the needs of our neighbors are so invisible. And in communities where rent and mortgages eat first, that the food needs, the need for nutrition is definitely so prevalent. And we're having far too many seniors on fixed incomes who are making very difficult choices between medications and food on their tables. And as you can see from our age demographics in Bergen County, we have about a quarter of our clients at our food pantries are under 18. That's our kids who don't have the fuel that they need to learn. And another quarter is over 60. These are our seniors who've worked hard their entire lives, who are now finding that their pensions and their Social Security checks are just not covering the increasing price of eggs. And so, the needs at our food pantries have not ebbed, and the need for this work regarding how we collaborate in this space is more important now than ever. One of the first things that we did in Bergen County in the immediacy of the pandemic was we updated and formed a social service directory, making sure, so many of our food pantry directors came to this work with full hearts and tremendous passion to help their neighbors, but not necessarily the most computer skills. And so putting together a hard copy and now a digital one to make sure that they are equipped with all the tools for resources of what is available to them to connect their clients, because food insecurity is a symptom. It is not the underlying disease. And how we get to the root of that, how we provide for and to holistically look at that individual and help them change their circumstances is what's going to be critical in ultimately addressing food insecurity. And so we formed this social services directory and dispensed it not only to our food pantry directors, but to all of our churches, synagogues, mosques, and temples, and that we made sure that we got that information out to individuals so we could figure out how to connect the clients in need to the resources that already existed to be able to help them. We also brought together our food pantry directors in a summit. We brought together, in that first July, we had our first food security summit where we did it outside, socially distanced and masked, but we were able to share best practices. We were able to hear from those on the ground what their biggest challenges were, and we were able to bring them together to form a community, to understand that the person sitting next to them dealt with that same pressure, that same stress of how they were meeting the needs in this extraordinary time, and let them work, be able to form those relationships so that when they got that extra donation that had more eggs that they could use, they knew that they could call a neighbor and be able to help them in providing for the needs in their communities as well. And that they were able to develop those relationships to problem solve around issues that they were seeing, whether it was the bag ban or summer EBT or whatever problems or challenges were on the horizon. They were able to come together and brainstorm and help be part of the conversation, and then also inform us at the county so that we could help strategize at the county level for how we could partner with them and how we can make their efforts more impactful. We also really focused on modernizing pantry operations. I think one of the things that was the most interesting to me is when we went out to the pantries the first time, it came in to this church in Little Ferry, and they had like a big book that looked like what St. Peter must have on his desk when we all get to the pearly gates, and that's where they were writing by hand all the information of the clients that they were serving. There were 23 food pantries in Bergen County that didn't even have a computer, had no access, and no access to refrigeration and freezers, so that they can't push out the healthier food options, the more perishables. We can't only provide cans and boxes and salty foods and things that are going to provide for hypertension and diabetes down the road. We wanted to make sure we were getting healthier food out onto our shelves as well. So we really focused a lot on modernizing our pantry operations and helping our pantries build for capacity, because what we realized by looking at past data was that this was going to be a marathon and not a sprint. And this is going to be something that they're going to be dealing with for decades, these increased numbers, and that we needed to better equip them to be able to deal for our future.
And Tracy, if I could just add one thing before we move on to the next slide, just particularly on the resources and the network sharing and best practices, these are ongoing conversations between our office and the commissioner and our administration and these, folks that are doing this work every day out in the community, outside of our signature big event that we do annually. We hold a monthly office hours meeting, where pantry directors and a lot of times our colleagues in the department or other providers will join these calls. And it's just a space for, these individuals to talk about whatever is going on and things that they think we should know at the county level about what they're seeing on the front lines. And we also try to meet the pantry operators where they are in terms of information about services and introducing them to providers. So we do a bi-monthly lunch and learn series where we'll.
Yeah, I was going to get to that one with the next slide, Pat.
Oh, okay. I don't mean to steal your thunder, so I'll leave that one to you.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we saw and we realized so palpably was that our food pantries are really key ambassadors. They're critical hubs for social services. They are trusted individuals within the community. They are able, we saw that where we had a strong food pantry director and strong relationships in that community, we had better vaccination rates. We had better ability to dispense information and push things out regarding the programs that we had in the county. And we really have seen them as the social service hubs that they really are so key. And so one of the things that we did, as Patrick was mentioning, is form this lunch and learn program where we bring different department heads or different things that they're interested in, whether it be fundraising and community building or website building or information on how to better obtain volunteers, or if it's hearing from our mental health providers or Board of Social Services about different programs. We bring this information to our food pantry directors so that they're equipped to be able to respond on the front lines to the needs that they're seeing, so that they can engage in that casual way with conversations about what those individuals are truly needing so they can get to the core needs that they're seeing in their community. you could turn to the next slide. One of the things that we hear so often is the challenges of bureaucracy, and especially when you're looking at people who are dealing with trauma, navigating these social service systems can be stressful. Absolutely. And whether it's reaching, they don't know where to reach. They don't know who to call. They just know that they're dealing with upheaval in their lives. And the pantry director has so often been a tremendous guide for them in how to connect to the services, and whether it is mental health or job training or healthcare or mental health or child care, whatever the need is, we wanted to make sure that our our food pantries really had the tools that they needed to connect the dots. And that's kind of where this no wrong door approach in our mind for dealing with the food pantries really came to bear. We found, and Patrick's going to go much more so into the details of how this was born from a computer technology perspective, but we found this program, Oasis Insights, that many use also for reporting to Community Food Bank, and it tracks information. It has an intranet so that our pantries can communicate with each other and say, hey, I've got extra poblano peppers, or who needs extra bags, or whatever it is, that it enables them to communicate. But the biggest thing is it enables them to make referrals to all of our different departments and divisions in the county, and so many of our nonprofits as well who are in this space. And that way, we can ensure that no one is falling through the cracks, that it becomes a warm handoff where an email shows up in the care provider's email box, that it's not, Patrick will go into the database issues of the challenges that our pilot pantries found. But the bottom line is this enables us to look at people as whole individuals and address each and every one of their needs seamlessly without the burden falling on the person who is dealing with the stress and trauma of already of being food insecure. I think one of the data points that I saw prior to the pandemic was that the average person was going to 4 or 5 food pantries to meet their needs that they had for their family. This enables a much more holistic approach to dealing with the individuals who are struggling. So Patrick, let me turn it over to you to talk about how we came to Oasis and how this is actually functioning on a day-to-day.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Tracy. So this process began for us all the way back in 2021, before we became the Office of Food Security, when we formed a group of pilot pantries to test different database software platforms that we had researched for the food pantry space and some sort of adjacent. And we really tried with this group to put together a sort of roster of organizations that represented different sizes of organization, different distribution styles, and also represented different regions of the county. As Jared mentioned earlier, we do have 70 municipalities. So we wanted to make sure that we were including as inclusive as possible in this group to make sure that we were going to make an informed decision on what database was going to be the best to roll out more broadly. Oasis was one of 3 database software products that were tested by this pilot group. They also included NowPow, which is now called Unite Us. Some of you who may work in the health and human services space may be aware of this one. And also PantrySoft, which is another food pantry database client management platform, along with Oasis Insights. And each of these platforms was evaluated for their functionality, ease of use, and also their features that were beneficial for pantry operation, as well as reporting tools, as Tracy mentioned. Many of our pantries in Bergen County are partners with the Community Food Bank, and there are certain reporting requirements that I'll speak about how this makes it easier for them to fulfill those. So that's what we were really looking at across this pilot pantry period. And we weren't testing these in a vacuum. These databases were used at live food pantry distributions. I don't know if anyone on the call has had the opportunity to volunteer at a pantry or visit a pantry distribution. Commissioner Zur and I have had the opportunity to participate in many of them, and they can certainly get a little crazy, a little hectic. The line is backing up. People are waiting in their cars or on foot wrapping around the building to get their food. And we needed to make sure that these databases could stand up to those tests. When things are getting a little crazy, it's going to work the way that everybody needs it to, and make things a little bit more efficient.
So and also in that pilot pantry group, I'm sorry to interrupt, but we had people who were very tech savvy and people who were not very tech savvy to see if it could stand up to those tests too.
That is a good point. We've seen it all in terms of, like Tracy said, some of the things we saw going into pantries really was incredible how they were maintaining their records, and we've seen some great transformations for folks that are using this platform since we rolled it out. So we did end up making the decision to go with Oasis Insights. We felt that, with the feedback from the pantries that tested it, that this was the best fit for their needs and for our needs sort of more broadly on the county level. And one of the key features, which you're seeing right here on the screen, is, as Tracy mentioned, it's almost like a social network. We joke in our office that we have Food Pantry Facebook on Oasis, and this is just a snapshot of some of the things that people will post. I would say that most often it's people with not enough or too many reusable bags, as we still sort of grapple with the changes in the plastic here in New Jersey with the plastic bag ban. But that's, for us, that's what we love to see, is these resources moving throughout this network of providers. In a centralized location. It's easy for pantries to connect with each other and coordinate the distribution of these supplies. And it's something that they all want to do. They want to share the wealth. They want to lift up the organizations that are doing the work alongside them. And, we think we've provided an effective forum for them to do so. And I just want to...
Yeah, and so those early wins on that was one of the biggest, things that I was proud of, is that we had people who were previously siloed, who did not even know they were part of a community, who are now sharing and actively engaged with each other. So.
Yeah, and those, whenever we see that, it's a good day in the Office of Food Security when we're getting the emails about people posting. So this is a feature that we love. And I just want to draw everyone's attention really quickly to the top of the page, the community dashboard. At the county level, this is really the data that we're looking for. This is what Oasis helps us with, really understanding the need countywide. And I will say this is not a complete snapshot of what the need is. We have about 30 of our pantries actively using this database right now. So we have to collect data in other ways to get more of a complete picture. But even with that group that's using this platform, we've been able to see almost 30,000 individuals who have profiles in the system, and our pantries have recorded just over 300,000 visits to their sites for assistance since we rolled this out publicly in 2023. So,
but let me just also clarify, Patrick, because we don't see the actual records and the actual data of an individual. So that is not operable. I know that very many who serve undocumented are very concerned about that being a government record that can be opened. We do not get that granular data and that granular information. That is solely the proprietary information of the nonprofit or the individual, the agency that is using that the software. So that is not something that we access. We get the 10,000 foot vision, though, to be able to see the activity that's going on, the need that is kind of ever present, and understand the movement of how that's affecting, from a numbers perspective, those different organizations.
Yes, certainly. Thank you for that, Tracy. That was another sort of key feature of this platform, as well as the privacy controls, very robust. Was a concern even before the climate that we're in now, just making sure that people's information is safeguarded. And this platform, again, does it in a very robust way. Another plus, centralized and standardized record keeping. Tracy mentioned the ledger from the 1950s with everyone that's come into the pantry, the dust-covered notebook, to Excel sheets that are in the language that only the pantry director can understand. This sort of demystifies all of that, and it allows pantries maybe who thought, I'm going to go onto a database, I have to reconfigure everything that I've done in the past in terms of my record keeping. This makes it very easy and straightforward, and it makes things uniform, and it makes it a little bit easier for the pantries to digest the data about what their operation looks like. We believe feeds very easily into the reporting tools that the software offers. And you can see here, this is just a test case. We don't have a ton of information, but it varies from pantry to pantry. Some will take address, contact information, how many people are in the household. That's very easily accessible using this platform. So that was another plus.
Hey, Patrick, this is John. If you don't mind, we have two questions that I think are timely. In that is Oasis Insights specific to food pantries, or can it be tailored to other social services as well?
So that's a great question, and certainly it's designed for client management at food pantries, but we've actually been able to find some other applications for this software, which I'll get into more detail in a couple of slides. But our Triple H, the county homeless shelter in Hackensack that you visited yesterday, actually, they've begun using Oasis for all of their intake procedures at that facility. So there is some application definitely outside of the pantry space. And I think the referrals, and I'll explain how our direct service providers use this in just a minute. The ability to send and receive referrals, it's a two-way street. A lot of times we see pantries sending them to the agencies, but the agencies also have the ability to refer their clients who may be food insecure for services at pantries in their area. So it's designed.
And just to understand, we have 30 other agencies that are non-food pantries that are
Yes.
connected to the Oasis Insights platform, so that for who are accepting and making referrals into the system.
Yeah. So I hope that answered whoever's question that was. But it's designed for pantry use, but it's sort of malleable enough with the reporting and what sort of data you can record, that it does have other practical applications we found.
Great, and thank you. You know what? If you can share with me a link to their website or any other information.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great, we appreciate it. And then we have one more question to confirm. Bergen County funds the Oasis software platform that all the pantries use. What information do pantries input in? So it's two-part question.
Okay.
Does Bergen County fund it, and what information do the pantries input into Oasis?
So we do fund it. We offer it to pantries and agencies that want to use it free of charge. If anybody has questions about the contract specifically, would be happy to talk offline with anybody that's interested in this platform. But it is, we feel, gives us a lot of value. It's very reasonable to the taxpayer, and for what it costs, we're able to provide a lot of features and functionality. So again, happy to discuss that further with anybody that's interested. And then the second question, what information do you need to input? So the only thing that is required to complete an intake is just a first name and a last name. That's it. And some pantries, that's the only information that they record. They're not really providing any other services in-house. So that's all they really need. We encourage everybody to try to get some contact information, really just for practical purposes. There's a snowstorm and the pantry's closed, or maybe there's a regular that comes every week and then you don't see them for 2 weeks. This allows the pantry the means to sort of check in and make sure everything's all right with that individual or family.
It also enables us to push out other information. If all of a sudden there's a seminar on VITA, which is the volunteer income tax program, or if there's a free Tai Chi class in our parks, that we can push all that information out to the individuals if that information is collected by the pantries.
Yeah, and then for the referrals, which I'll go to the next slide because we can get more into that. So this is the referral feature. It's very straightforward and easy to use both for pantries and agencies. What you'll see on the left-hand side of the screen is what comes into your inbox when you receive a referral. When we were testing this feature, the nice thing about being in the Department of Human Services is a lot of our colleagues are regularly receiving referrals, entering data into different databases. So we did some testing and tried to learn a lot from their experience those various processes as we sort of built this out in Oasis. And one thing that we heard, one of my colleagues in the Division of Senior Services told me, she's a unit supervisor, And she said that her staff would enter data into 11 different databases based on the program that they were working on, or the funding source for the program. So database fatigue certainly is real. I'm sure it's something that many of you experience in your counties, with your staff in the sort of health and human services world. So we had to make this as simple as possible for the providers to get all the information that they need. So the nice thing about this is, when the referral is sent, this little card that you see on the left-hand side of your screen is what comes into your inbox, and it contains all the information that someone will need to start an intake. What you see on the right is how the referral is actually transmitted, and the agencies that can accept referrals, they told us, okay, this is exactly the information that we need. So you see the example here for Northeast New Jersey Legal Services. They need the client's name, phone number, and a brief description of the legal issue or area of law that they need assistance, as well as their preferred language. So the pantry directors will know, okay, here's the information I need to get from the individual that may need a referral. And I just want to state too that none of this happens without the client's consent. Before any of these things can move forward, the client has to sign a release of information. I just want to make that clear for everybody that this is totally led by the individual that may need the service, and it's up to them whether or not that they want to proceed with this process. But again, we try to make it easy, and this handoff, even with the little bit of context that the provider is getting in this card, it makes it so much easier on their end, and we think we're creating a better experience both for the client and for the agency, because the client has learned about a program from a trusted source, trust that we may not have with that individual in government. So the pantry has opened the door. Tracy talked a lot about the pantries as social services hubs. This is really empowering them to be that in the fullest extent possible. And they're helping us open the door and have those conversations about additional services and refer people in a way that they know is going to sort of work out. Much more so than calling cold and the person calling up not really knowing what they might need, and it's frustrating, and you're rifling, finding documents and all that stuff. So this makes it a little bit easier. And for the provider, they have an arrow pointing them in the direction that for the service that the client needs. So they can prioritize that immediate need and then run them through a more sort of broad intake to see what the person might be eligible for. And I do just want to share a testimonial from one of our pantries. And I'll just say that this feature, there's a lot of training, a lot of conversations we're having both with providers and with our pantries so that this is being used to the fullest extent. So I think we're not quite there where we want to be with how often this is being used. But even with that said, we're seeing the success stories and the usefulness of this functionality in particular. And I just want to share one which comes to us from the Parkside Community Church Food Pantry up in Westwood, a great partner of ours in the Office of Food Security. Their pantry director really embraced Oasis early on, was very open to talking with their clients about, hey, if you need other services, we can help you. We can help you direct accordingly for those needs. And one day she had an individual come, one of her regulars, to their distribution, and he was talking with the pantry director about a dental issue that he was having. And it was really affecting him in his day-to-day, but the gentleman didn't have insurance, dental insurance. But he told the pantry director, I don't have insurance, but I'm a veteran. So there must be some program out there that can help me with this issue. He just didn't know where to start, where to look for the information on what he needed. So the pantry director said, hey, if I can have you sign a release form, I can refer you to the Division of Veteran Services at the county, our colleagues in the Department of Human Services, and they'll contact you with information about programs that may be helpful for this specific issue. So that's exactly what they did. The distribution was on a weeknight, so the referral went in after hours. But that individual received a call the next morning from one of our veteran services specialists, explained to him that he'd received a referral from the food pantry at Parkside Community Church. And that started the intake process. That individual was able to get connected to 2 programs specific to the dental issue that he was having, that he was eligible for as a veteran. And they also ran him through a full intake to see what other benefits that the person might have been eligible for. So this is just one example, but it's something that we're trying to replicate as often as possible, where we're building that connective tissue and we're giving the pantries the means to empower their clients and their guests to get the services that they truly need outside of the food assistance. And I think this sort of speaks to the question that we got earlier, John. So we are expanding use of Oasis outside the food pantry space. And last year, we sort of kicked off a couple of really exciting partnerships with different county agencies. The first one, as I mentioned, is with our county homeless shelter, the Housing, Health, and Human Services Center in Hackensack, which is run by the Housing Authority of Bergen County. We partnered with them and help train their staff on how to use Oasis. And they're now using it at that facility to log people coming in for lunch, for other services. They're using it for all of their sort of intake procedures for the different services that they offer at the shelter. And we're looking forward to taking that next step with them and getting them using the referrals as well for the folks over at the Triple H who are in need of additional services. And the other one, which we're really excited about, is we entered into partnership with our county hospital, Bergen Newbridge Medical Center, which is the largest public hospital in the state of New Jersey. And we're working with them to create a program where they're going to provide home-delivered groceries for folks that screen as food insecure when they come into the hospital, when they're discharged. And then where we come in is we're going to help refer those individuals to pantries in their area to meet that ongoing food assistance need. So just a couple of areas where we're trying to think outside the box and really use the functionality of Oasis to benefit other county agencies outside of the food pantry space. So again, really excited about these partnerships and how they grow in 2025.
As far as future possibilities, I mean, we're constantly growing our network. We're now up to 30 pantries and 30 providers, working consistently to push out the information about Oasis to other pantries. Some feel that they're too small or that they're too this or too that. We're meeting those needs and helping train them in doing that so that they can help create this seamless network that we're trying to build. All of this gives us the information and the data that we need also to have that holistic look at what's going on in our neighborhoods and how we need to better be pushing out our programming. It helps us, and we're constantly trying to network about the programs that we have available. We feel like too few people know that we even exist as far as have these certain programs. We're having additional voices on the ground, making sure that they're pushing out information, and that's beneficial for our teams that are outreaching. It's making outreach that much more straightforward for so many of our divisions and departments as well. I want to make sure that we have time for questions, and I see that we're coming to the end of this time, but I just, we are here and available and grateful to talk to any of you. We've already spoken to several of our county partners in different communities about what we're doing. We'll give you a much more in-depth live demo of how Oasis works, both, on the ground and on the computer screen. But please feel free to reach out to us. We are really passionate about the power that the county can have in spearheading these efforts. We sit at this wonderful spot where we get to see the best practices in so many communities. We can help kind of percolate that through the system and really help continue to evolve this no wrong door approach so that we're making sure that no one falls through the cracks here in Bergen County. And we would be grateful to partner with you in figuring out how to do that in your communities as well. If there's any questions, John, if you want to open that up, we're
yes,
happy
I do.
field
But
them.
I first want to thank you again. It was a terrific presentation. I appreciate it a great deal. And also, before I thank you for a final time, I want to recognize NJAC President, Somerset County Commissioner Director Chanel Robinson. Thank you for joining us today, Madam President. It's always good to see you. Janelle, would you like to make any comments or do you have any questions?
No, I would just like to thank Bergen County Commissioner Zur and Patrick for the presentation and taking the time out. I see we have quite a few people interested in the work that you all have done and how we can duplicate or replicate to our service areas. But certainly there is a question about having a copy of the presentation. So someone—
Happy to share that, Commissioner Director.
Yeah, but these are challenges that we all face, no matter the socioeconomic, geographically where we're located. So thank you for doing such an excellent job in combating this, and how we can continue to work together in making sure that our constituencies and our residents are being serviced well. So
Thank you, Madam President.
Yeah, thank you so much, Madam President.
Yeah, thank you. And not only will we share the presentation, but we'll share this video recording as well as we do with all of our virtual workshops. So if someone in your office had to miss it, you're welcome to share this with them. And thank you to Angela for that. So I don't see any questions. So this is your last chance, going once, going twice.
And
all right. Oh, wait,
John,
we got one. We got one. We got one. There we go. All right. Excellent. So if the office is partnering with any local or other county within New Jersey, are you partnering with any other local or counties in New Jersey to provide fresh produce? If so, where are they and what types of products are they being provided? It's a great question.
So we happen to have a wonderful organization in Bergen County called Table to Table that serves Bergen, Passaic, and I think part of Essex as well. And Hudson County too. And so they do a lot of fresh produce rescue from our supermarkets, and they are critical in helping connect to our partners. We at the county are not in the food distribution. During the pandemic, we had to, we were pushing out sweet potatoes that first Thanksgiving. I think I'll never be able to look at a yam in the same way as we pushed out 125,000 pounds of yams to all of our food pantries to help them meet the needs of that very first Thanksgiving. But we're not in the food distribution business in Bergen. We are a connector. We are one who's trying to marshal resources, unify messaging to underscore needs, and engage community partners in being parts of the solution. So as Jared kind of touched on at the very beginning, we really use this government voice as one of unification and collaboration.
And I just want to make a note too. Some of you may remember if you were at our workshop last year down in Atlantic City, we had our New Jersey Office of Food Security Advocate Executive Director Mark Dingleson presenting alongside us. And I just want to highlight his office, the NJ Office of Food Security Advocate, both for counties that may be interested in doing some of the coalition work that we've done in Bergen County. I think he estimates that offices like ours or coalitions are active in 13 of our 21 counties. But I know a big focus of theirs as well is partnering with the agricultural community here in New Jersey. That office is part of the Department of Agriculture to help people on the front lines connect more easily with our farmers, our commercial fishing ports that we have in New Jersey. So certainly I would encourage everybody to check out that office and see what they're doing around those specific sort of supply chain questions as well.
That's great. Any other? Wait, we have one more question. And this is, you may have said this, but although the county cannot see personal information, is there any ability for the pantries themselves to cross-reference information with each other if trying to find certain dietary needs for someone to avoid duplication?
That's a great question. And that's one of where first of all, the building of community through our food pantry summits is so critical because they can discuss those problem cases. I've got a client with celiac, all that kind of stuff. We also have partnerships with some of our hospitals that help in those spaces as well, connect to some of the specific dietary needs that individuals might have. Some of that happens informally, but that definitely can happen on the dashboard and can be a utilization of the Oasis, to say, I've got a client with celiac with certain needs. Does anyone have X product? And there's so much partnership and ongoing conversation regarding those specific situations. So,
and just on the case-by-case level, because of the privacy settings, it is a little bit of a challenge to like, it will flag cases sometimes, like if you're entering somebody twice for the same agency. But that is something that we're it's always been a challenge for us, this idea of the pantry hopping, like Tracy mentioned, and why that's happening. So we're still sort of working through that on the database. But I think to the commissioner's point, when you build that network and the pantries are talking and building those relationships with fellow operators, it's easy. You can sometimes have those conversations informally about specific needs, generally, whether it's allergies or different things, or, if a client's like, hey, I go to this other pantry and they give me XYZ items because I have this allergy to peanuts or to gluten or whatever it may be. That's certainly a benefit of just the networking and really being intentional to try to build that network over the last 5 or so years.
And the biggest thing we're trying to also is this voice of unification of messaging. We've equipped, using our American Rescue Plan dollars, we pushed out $1.6 million worth of funding to our pantries to stabilize, whether it's fixing floors or building shelves or providing refrigerators or freezers. 83% of our food pantries now have refrigeration and freezers. So we want to make sure that we're changing the messaging about the needs of our pantries, that they can accept milk, that they can accept, vegetables, and that's a big shift, because the antiquated perception is that they only need your leftover garbanzo beans in the back of your cabinet for the last 8 years. That's not a good donation to it's a donation to a pantry, but it's not what we're trying to change the definition of what, and they need diapers, and they need hygiene products, things that are not covered by WIC and SNAP, and to get that out into the community. So the unification of the message is definitely a big role that our Office of Food Security is playing as well here in the county.
All right, I think this is our last question, if you don't mind. And This is, how do you manage providing funds to the pantries? It's a good question too.
So during the pandemic, we had 3 rounds actually of grants that we pushed out of American Rescue Plan dollars, where we pushed out funds directly to the pantries. They made an application process. We used a Wise Hive, which was a program to manage the grant applications. We had a team who were assessing the need of that did it meet the criteria that we had set forth in the grant proposals. At this point, we're not pushing out the funding. We are making them aware of other grant opportunities that are available. The only direct support that we're giving to the pantries is by providing them with the Oasis platform, and by providing them with opportunities to continue to collaborate. Very often we'll plug them into other opportunities that are available, but it's highlighting the things that are out there. But we're not providing at this point in time any direct funding to our food pantries. It doesn't mean that they can't make application for a community development block grant to fix a bathroom and make it handicapped accessible, or doesn't, there are other things that the county does provide. And the ongoing conversation about what those might be does take place through our ongoing conversations with the pantries.
And to add to that, I think the partnerships between organizations is sort of sustainable in and of itself. So certainly there's financial need out there, but I think the point in doing this is that the financial burdens don't fall on individual pantries or the county, that by working together, there's sustainability because the funding is coming from all different sources. In fact, our work together probably assists ourselves and those agencies in applying for grants, because then they have data that they didn't have before. They have proven success of working with community partners. And so the success begets further success.
And part of what we do also in our Lunch and Learn series is we're teaching them how to fish. It's not just giving a man a fish. It's not giving the pantries the dollars per se, but it's teaching them how to fundraise. It's not giving them the actual produce, but it is helping them figure out how to put that information out to the community and update their website so that they can communicate their needs more succinctly to the community. So, we're providing resources to them as far as services of education, of information, of collaboration, of highlighting potential partnerships that can be lucrative. And definitely if we come, to information about potential grants, we're putting that out to the pantry stuff, into the Oasis network too. So,
yeah.
That's great. I mean, again, thank you for just the great work that you're doing. It's making a significant difference in Bergen County. And, you know, as nonprofits and civic organizations and religious organizations are all struggling, you know, to provide these services, county governments, I think are going to have to play a much greater role in addressing this vulnerable population and this needs. Again, thank you for your leadership and your vision. And again, just making a difference in Bergen County. I saw it with my own eyes yesterday. So thank you. I appreciate it a great deal, and look forward to seeing you in person again soon.
Thank you, John.
All right, thank
Anyone
you.
else who wants to come up to either visit our shelter or talk to us about Oasis, please feel free to reach out.
Yes, definitely.
And I
Please
feel
do.
that thank you both, Jared and John, for your participation in this well-rounded topic and making sure that we get the information out in another collaboration with the other counties. So thanks again.
All right, great. Have a great day.